You just completed the Meet the People tour accompanying the president. So from a political point of view, but also from, a policy point of view, you were central to the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of, he's taken a lot of stick from the opposition. About the cost of the Meet the People tour and what happens on the Meet the People tour, the question of compins. What are compins doing on Meet the People tour? So it's gone from being an opportunity, a platform to meet farmers, understand what their needs and problems are, to a political rally paid for by the Gambian taxpayer. That's the allegation. How do you respond to these
Very
allegations?
baseless allegation. In fact, I had Usainu Dabu, during your interview with him, did not say he wouldn't conduct a Meet the People tour, because you asked him if he were to be president, which never shall be, but if it were to be, will he not do a Meet the People tour? He said it is going to be called Listen to the People tour. I mean, that is just shocking. But coming down to your question, the Meet the People tour is really Meet the People tour. And when we leave from Banjul, we cross at the meeting. The speakers include the community, the youth leaders of the community, not NPP youth president of the area. It's the chiefs that speak, the alcalos, the imams pray for us, the women leaders. I mean, these are selected not by NPP. We have nothing to do with that. They are selected by the governor's office in conjunction with a committee that has been set up on the Meet the People tour. And talking about Yai Compins, as far as I'm concerned, it is the government officials that went with His Excellency the President, the ministers, permanent secretaries in some cases, or director generals. And we went to listen to the farmers and to a cross-section of Gambians that come to the rally. You know, the budget that people talk about, this year I think it was 30 million. The benefit of Meet the People tour seriously outweighs the 30 million that people are talking about. I mean, what can 30 million do in real terms when we talk about government? This Meet the People tour has given us the opportunity to hear from the farmers, from fishermen, from laborers, from every section of the Gambian society, what their issues are. What are they happy about in terms of governance? What is working for them and what is not working for them? And in fact, the president, according to the constitution, should go around minimum once. This means he can go 2, 3, or 4 times. If it were political, why didn't the NPP or the president take advantage of this and go around 2, 3, or 4 times if it were to be political? Or if it was according to the allegations of Usainu Dabo and his UDP. So the message for the Gambian people, and the Gambian people know this better than us even speaking here, that the Meet the People tour is constitutional, is relevant, and unlike his so-called Meet the People tour, that he intended to even do while His Excellency was on tour, which is a serious sign of disrespect, that the president is on a constitutionally mandated tour. The resources of the government, which is the police and the military, are all deployed to create that safe and conducive environment for this constitutional mandated tour to take place. This is when Usainu Dabo and his team intended to do a tour, and they needed security. They needed some state resources. And it was not going to be possible. But the fact that he even intended to do it around the same time, putting himself at the level of a president, which is grandiosity, it just tells a lot about the party and the man.
Well, even when he was in government, he denied ever acting in a way and manner that would undermine the presidency. So why would he want to equate himself with the president, years after he was, out of government?
I had that interview. He can say that to those that are in the diaspora, but not to people in the Gambia. When he was on tour, he stopped around inspecting bridges built by President Barrow. He stopped around inspecting the Chamoy Bridge. What does he gotta do with inspecting a bridge at Chamoy?
Well, to see whether it was done right.
Is he an engineer? What capacity does he have to go and inspect Chamoy Bridge, whether it was done right. He cannot determine whether a bridge is done right or wrong. He has to trust that we have a Ministry of Works and Infrastructure with competent engineers that were tasked with supervising the building of those bridges. And the best he can do is to drive over that bridge and thank His Excellency President Barrow and his government for building that infrastructure, and not to go and put himself apart, or even standing at the Basse Bridge inspecting the rice fields, the flooded area, giving it a level of presidential or giving the wrong impression that he was going to be able to do anything about it. And he cannot do anything about it. It's just to waste the time of the people he was going with and waste the time of the people that were invited to come and meet them. But at the end of the day, it is the government of His Excellency President Barrow that can solve the problem of the people. And the Gambian population knows that. Hussein Dabo was a vice president here. He was a foreign minister here. I mean, let him show for what has he done for the people. Instead of going around and just castigating the government over and over and over. He cannot mention one single good thing. Even those roads that he drove on, he said he was the one who got them from China. And he described other roads in the combos as unleveled, that the Battle Harding Highway is poorly done, is not leveled. We have all traveled to other countries. We know roads that are well done and not well done. So I think the man is bent on just negativity. And this negativity is working for us because the country has now ruled him out as an alternative.
Has it?
Yes.
Okay. So the Meet the People tour is to listen to, farmers' needs and problems.
Yeah.
What did you discover on this particular Meet the People tour? Because one thing that stood out was farmers complaining that the yield this year is poor, and for that reason, even though the price the Gambia offers is said to be the best in the sub-region, they still wanted a bit more. Is the government going to yield to them and give more?
Actually, I must thank the farmers of the Gambia for being on the field and providing us with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even though it's 50% of our food is local and the other 50% is imported. The groundnut yield this year was the key issue during His Excellency's Meet the People tour. The yields have been found to be low, and as a ministry responsible or tasked with food security, we've already engaged our scientists to establish realistically what led to the low yield. And tentatively, the reports are pointing towards climate change. And of course, there are people who have gotten very good yields, and the ones with poor yield, the comparison right now is early planters and late planters. Also, there was a 16-day drought spell during the rainy season, and that has also been pointed to as a potential cause. Other factors include our gene pool itself. These groundnut seeds that we used in 2024 being the same gene pool for the past 50 years. So in genetics, after a while, it deteriorates. So it is a suspect. And already we've started engaging a couple of very credible universities. The University of Georgia are going to be here in February. The University of South Carolina, who are world-renowned specialists in groundnut, were here last week. They're working with NARI, and my team, NARI, the DG and the team, were in South Carolina last month. So we are also working with FAO and other agencies and organizations to establish and probably transition into a different gene pool of groundnuts, because it is suspected that the variety we have, the gene might have been too old now.
Are you going to give the groundnut farmers a bit more for their tonnage?
Look, I think the government has gone above and beyond, because not only are the yields not high enough, but the quality of the nuts themselves are very low. Despite the low quality of the nuts, the groundnuts, the government has still offered a price better than any price around the sub-region. And this is on top. Look, every kilo that we buy from the farmer at $38 per kilo, government is going to sell this to the international market at a maximum of about $20 per kilo.
Oh, wow.
So government is subsidizing $18 per kilo, which is $18,000 for every ton that we buy from the farmers. Not only are we offering them the best price, but government is highly subsidizing. Last year, we spent $1.5 billion to buy groundnut from every possible farmer in this country who presented their nuts at the designated secos within the designated period of the season. And it costed the government $1.5 billion. Nearly half of that is subsidy. So I think our price is still the best in the sub-region, despite all the challenges.
And you're not even going to add one butut on top of the $38 per kilo or 38,000 per ton.
For now, I think we are sticking with the 38,000. And the farmers, this morning we just had a meeting with the Gambia Farmers Union, the NECOFAG, which is the umbrella body of the farmer organizations. And there is no complaint about price. They are happy because they understand all the factors surrounding the pricing structure itself. And there are, as always, and this year was no exception, a price consultation forum that we do in Genoa every year, even before the price announcement. And we were there with almost all the representatives of farmer organizations, and this price was not a bad idea, and still not.
Not a bad idea, but the secos seem to be having problem, getting money. I mean, there have been a few reports of URR not getting, secos in URR not getting money, I think NBR and, elsewhere. When you sit here in your office and read those reports, I mean, what action do you take, if any?
Well, the actions are, like I told you this morning, the meeting included Q Group, Q Money, Gambia Farmers Union, GGC, Ministry of Finance, Agriculture, at our conference room. And that's what generated this meeting is reports coming from the corners, from all across the country, about farmers having difficulties accessing their money. So I wanted to know firsthand from the farmer representatives what are the problems. Then I can now hear from GGC and their financial partners, which is Q Group, on what is being done and what needs to be done. Apparently, this year we are using Q money to pay farmers. Senegal and other Senegal is using 100% orange money. And last year, this government lost $46 million because we were using liquid cash. And the loss is immense. $46 million out of this budget is substantial. And it was difficult to pinpoint. Is it the cooperative presidents, some of whom are really quite aged now, 70s and 80s? Is it their clerks? Is it the GGC staff? Is it the Q Group Ajib Bank clerks? So it is a very complex thing to supervise if you are dealing with liquid cash. This year, we had a meeting, stakeholder meeting, including all the 95 cooperative secos in the country, the seco presidents, their apex bodies, that we are going to introduce Q money. And not because we preferred Q money, all other platforms were invited. And the most responsive was Q money. Because questions will be raised after this interview that, okay, why Q money? Do we have special interest? I have had I had an audio even associating this to some other elements like why Q money. It was because this was open and they became the most responsive and GGC chose them after a process. And what happens is all the secos, instead of depositing liquid cash, when you bring your groundnuts, they are weighed and you are credited with an amount and the fees are waived. No farmer pays withdrawal fees. If your groundnuts are $10,000, we have signed an MOU with other financial institutions, Easy Pay, Reliance, the commercial banks. You can go to any of these institutions. You don't have to go to Q Group payout. Of course, you can go to any Q Group payout. But if you choose to go to any other financial institution, you still go ahead and get your $10,000. The charges are paid for by the GGC and the ministry. So I think It's a matter of sensitization. This is new, it's digital. Most of our farmers are not very literate. And change is a challenge. And it takes a while for people to adopt it. And that is why you hear there are a lot of noise around. We've asked our technicians to increase the sensitization. And also, one of the problems that was identified was the limited number of Q money agents, and also the limited amount of money that is available with that agent itself. Q Group and Q Money are aware of these challenges. We just concluded a meeting, and I think they are on the field, and it will improve over the weekend. And Monday we have scheduled another meeting with the Q Group CEO himself will be having a meeting with me. All this is geared towards solving the problem. And also, His Excellency President Adam Barrow is aware of the audios and all the noise that is out there. And he has specifically instructed us to do whatever it takes to solve the problem of the farmers, make sure they access their money and access it in the easiest way and time possible. So we are working towards that.
If groundnut is not possible, if the price you buy at locally is only worth half the value on the international stage, why do we keep encouraging our farmers to grow groundnuts? Why can't they transition to some other crops?
Exactly. That's a very, very good question. But Peter, every Gambian grew up seeing groundnut. Groundnut is beyond a cash crop. Groundnut is everything Gambia.
It's a national emblem, if you like.
Exactly. So that's a challenge. However, as a ministry, that's why during the tour, you saw us doing matching grant. We disbursed millions. In fact, during the tour alone, we disbursed about $124 million from one of the agricultural projects, Giraffe, funded by the World Bank and the government of the Gambia. No beneficiary was there that is a groundnut producer. 100%. Because the beneficiaries are cashew, poultry, and the like. Because we want people to transition. And that transition is going to take time. Look, a kilo of cashew is a lot more expensive than a kilo of groundnut. And the cashew tree is going to be there for the next 50, 60 years. It is a lot less labor intensive. However, groundnut has been our cultural, finance, economic crop. It's been everything Gambia. So it's a process, it's a transitional phase that we are talking with the farmers. And the young ones, the young farmers, are into vegetable production, they are into cashew, they are into onion, they are into poultry, because it's more high value, it's a lot more money, but it's going to take a while to transition. But we are fully aware of this statement, and we are catching up to it.
And of course, the issue of agriculture being the backbone of the Gambian economy, yet that is not reflected in the budget, also came up, and not just from politicians, yes. Even economists, look at the budget and say, well, we are not being serious as we are meant to be. If we say, we are all about agriculture and agrarian economy, look at what goes to the president's office, compare it with what's been given to agriculture.
Yes. Look, I think I've had this, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity that you have given to put...
Well, we want to be enlightened.
Exactly. Because, let's say in 2025, the Ministry of Agriculture is allocated 890 million, which is about 2.39 or thereabout. Little less than 3% of the budget. Okay. The Ministry of Agriculture currently implementing about 9 projects that are funded by either World Bank, African Development Bank, ISDB, and a couple of other donor partners, IFAD. The Roots project is funded by IFAD. It's about 80 million, for 5 years period. The Giraffe project initially was 40 million with an additional financing of 68 million. So if you put together all that portfolio of all the 8-9 projects under my ministry, you're talking about $300 or so million. No international donor is going to take money and fund the office of the president. World Bank or IFAD is not going to go ahead and fund other agencies, let's say the public service or trade or somewhere. But these international agencies, knowing that agriculture is the backbone of the country, they are investing millions together with the budget of the government of the Gambia. So the working theory here is, if we have the potential as agriculture, we have the potential to attract millions of dollars from donor partners, then the meager resource that the government have, the small envelope, why don't we invest a bigger chunk of that in other areas that are less likely to be funded by international agencies? I mean, no government agency has $300 million in their budget. But the Ministry of Agriculture, yes, we have $800 million, but in terms of dollar value, we have a lot more millions in dollar value in our projects to support the work of the Ministry of Agriculture. And so that issue of the percentage that the government GLF is about 3% or less for agriculture and about 7% in other sectors. If you look at it from the surface of things, that is what it will look like to you. But if you are an insider, you will understand that if you have $10 and you are more likely to be subsidized by a brother overseas with $50, you might as well allow your other brothers to take $7, $8. You'll be okay with your $2 or $1, knowing that the big brother will subsidize you with $50. This is the scenario, and that explains why we are around 3%. But 80 or 90% of our implementations are donor-funded implementations. And the government of the Gambia, of course, as co-funders. This is the context, and not because government has not given agriculture a priority. The biggest priority of His Excellency President Adama Barrow is agriculture, electricity, and roads.
So there is enough money in agriculture?
There shall never be enough money, but there is money to work with to implement the current goals of the ministry. Of course, these projects, their funding is controlled. Also, a little bit more complicated. If today we want to buy 100 tractors, it would have been easy if it was in the GLF, that is from the Ministry of Finance. Right to Ministry of Finance, we want to launch a tender and buy 100 tractors. It's a lot more easier than if we want to buy tractors using monies from a project. If it was not in the project design, it won't be there. As much as you want to buy the tractors, you will not get the tractors. Whatever was not designed when the project was being designed will not be, you can't not go ahead and do that. So yes, a lot more, but yeah, there is money to implement as much as we desire. And our donor partners understand that, they're working with us. And I think what we have, it's a developing country. It's a tax-based economy, and we are dealing with it as a government. We look at things holistically, not by sectors.
You speak of tractors. I think there's a commitment to bring X number of tractors in 2025. How many?
180.
180.
Yes.
To do what? Because we've just said that, the groundnut yield is dwindling year in, year out, and then your government gets criticized for virtually killing rice production in this country. Everybody talks about being to Jahali Pachar and just having their hearts broken. The GFA leader, the UDP leader, and others. Yes. And I remember as a young reporter in Radio Gambia, Jahali Pachar, was in the news all the time.
Can you do me a favor? Can you send a reporter to Jahali Pachar? So that you don't listen to people like Usainu Dabo or people like Bakari Dabo, who are spent bullets. They've outlived their value. Like Bakari Dabo. He was vice president. He was minister of finance. He was ambassador to Belgium. What can he show us? What has he done for the Gambian people?
All he said was during his time, Jahali Pachar was
what?
Producing a lot of rice. Now it's...
Can he tell us the tonnage?
It's as good as...
Look. The records are there to speak for themselves. If you go to Jahali Pachar today, we are doing both rainy season and dry season production. Jahali Pachar, the gates are being fixed currently by the Roots project. In fact, the entire area was plowed by the government at no cost to farmers or at a highly subsidized rate. They're giving fertilizer, they're giving seeds at no cost. The amount of investment that the government of President Barrow has done in Jahali Pachar is unprecedented and has never been done by any government. What I can assure you is the records are there to show. In fact, the amount of rice that is being produced locally in the Gambia for the past 5 years, year on, year out, from 22, 23, 24, and going into 25, it has just been increasing. In fact, from 2023 to 2024, we increased by 12%. And Jahali Pachar is no exception. And when you say these tractors for what? Look, we are seriously investing in rice production and also in maize production. And these are both upland and in lowland. And that is why the need for tractors in this country is in thousands of tractors. Of course, government can be bringing in segment. That's why in 2025, the intention is to bring in 180 tractors. This is going to boost our productivity in multiple folds because we know the challenge when the rain starts. We know the pressure that we go through for pressures on demand for tractor services. We only have 50 tractors currently under the government fleet. And that is not even enough for one region. 50 tractors is not even enough for North Bank alone, not to talk about CRR North and South. So there's immense need for tractors. And we recognize that. And the results for rice production and maize production, the records are available under the Department of Planning. And I think they speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And is there any way of identifying what region is best for what crop and encouraging farmers in the region to concentrate, on producing that crop rather than somebody, in an area where groundnuts don't do well, trying to grow groundnuts?
Good. We have a project under the Ministry of Agriculture. It's called the Soil Fertility Mapping. It is a $1 million project funded by the Islamic Development Bank. It is being implemented by the ministry under the CPCU, that is the Central Project Coordinating Unit. The project is a 3-year project. What it is doing currently is to map the entire country, all the regions, and per crop. At the end of these studies, it is going to the data is going to be open source. You can access it anywhere in the world, where you should be able to know in a village like Bondali what is going to grow best there.
Is that where you come from?
Yes, exactly. I'm from Bondali. And what this study will establish with 3D mapping, verified, geolocated, what crop will do best in a village in Foni or a village near Wasu or somewhere in Tumana. And these studies will establish the fertility. And in fact, it will now save us from blindly applying, NPK, which is nitrogen, potassium, and all that. It will specifically be able to tell you, okay, this area, the soil is deficient in magnesium or is deficient only in potassium. So it's nutrient specific so that the farmer can just laser focus on this nutrient for that area. So the study is ongoing. It's under the Soil Fertility Mapping Project.
Mm-hmm. One criticism I heard also was that whereas in the Gambia, you gave subsidized fertilizer to farmers, in Senegal they gave fertilizer free to farmers.
Who said they gave fertilizer free to farmers? Matter of fact, when the rainy season started, you had our announcement, our press release, urging the Inspector General of Police to arrest anybody who is found with fertilizer going across the borders. If fertilizers were being given for free in Senegal, who else will smuggle fertilizer from the Gambia across the border to take it to Senegal? This is just ridiculous. The cost of fertilizer in Senegal was announced a week before our announcement. So that just tells you that for anybody, for opposition elements to go around and say, us subsidizing fertilizer in the Gambia, countries like Senegal or some West African countries, we are giving fertilizer for free, is outright unsubstantiated. It's just untrue. Fertilizer was cheaper in this country than most countries in the sub-region. And also it's more accessible. That explains why fertilizer was being smuggled from this country into our neighboring countries. So yes, we had the best and the most affordable. because you cannot go more than 10 kilometers anywhere in the Gambia without having had a fertilizer sales agent. So, and apart from the highly subsidized 27,000 metric tons that the government brought in, the government of the Gambia and the agricultural projects had as components farmer support, where over 10,000 bags of fertilizer have been given to farmers that have been found to be vulnerable and farmers that we are cultivating crops that we have priority, let's say rice. So rice growers in the entire Jahali Pachar, which is the 2,400 hectares, 900 hectares of that were supported by the Roots project. Roots paid 80% of the cost of the fertilizer. The farmer only paid 20%. And it was the same with the plowing services. They even gave them herbicide with the gears and everything. The rest of the hectare, the farmers had highly discounted fertilizer from other projects. The P2RS project gave fertilizer at no cost. It wasn't even subsidized. It was free. The Giraffe project gave seeds from Katong to Koina at no cost. So it is baseless for opposition elements to say fertilizer was given for free in Senegal or in Guinea. I mean, fertilizer is cheaper here and more accessible in this country than any other country around us here.
Mm-hmm. This time not politicians. Economists also look at, our river and say government is not fully harnessing its potential to ensure all year agriculture. This is season for this, crop. Yes. And then, you really harness the potential of the river to make sure that that crop, is grown and gives a good yield. Are you doing anything with the river?
Yes, we are. Actually, if you collect any of the newspapers today, there is a tender there for land development. And this is under the Roots project. And there's also one under the regional rice value. Under the regional rice value, what we intend to do is to develop 981 hectares of land that are going to be fully irrigated. And these pumps are going to be solar pumps, and the pump houses are going to be next to the River Gambia in all these sites that I talk about. In Jahali Pachar, it will be about 421 hectares in Jahali Pachar alone. But then we will be doing other places like Diabugu Batapa, many other settlements in URR and CRR. So just to let you know that we may have about 15 to 20 pump houses built right next to the River Gambia with solar-powered pump stations that will be at no cost to the farmers, because now if they are solar-powered, that means they can be irrigating their fields from dawn to dusk without having worrying about the cost of maintenance, like cost of fueling and all those things. So this is in the works, and this is not something that I'm telling you we plan in 2026. It's already in the newspapers as evidence. The tender is out, and I think the tender is going to close by January 25th or so, and we intend to have this contract signed in early February, and I think we will have this thing delivered in 2025. So yes, we are doing something, and currently Jahali Pachar is a tidal irrigation, I mean with gates, with dikes, so we are taking advantage. And if you go to Sapo, we just developed a 30 hectare field, 15 hectares brand new by Bajam Construction, and these are irrigated with canals getting their water from the River Gambia, and the other 15 hectares is rehabilitated. This will be highly productive. They should be able to produce 2 to 3 times a year. And these are things that I'm telling you that any of the opposition element or media houses can go to Sapo today and see this thing and show it to the Gambian people. And I think I'll urge you and other media houses to help us in that.
Give us the millions to be able to travel around.
I'll talk to Information Minister to give you the millions.
No, but on a serious note, all these projects that are being planned, are you planning them with climate change in mind? Because it's bound to affect them somehow.
Oh, yes. In fact, we call it climate smart agriculture. The seeds that we give to the farmers, they are climate smart seeds. And that means they can do well in a scenario of flood. They can be drought resistant for a certain number of days. And also, that is why now we're talking about pumps that are going to be solar powered only, because climate change, agriculture is also a cause to climate change. And that is why climate smart agriculture is our new thing. And when we say solar power irrigation, because if you are not in control of the elements, that is when rain comes and when rain does not come, it means you cannot control your production and productivity. But if these fields, like we plan to start in 2025, they are all irrigated, that means we pump in the water when water is needed by the farmers, and also they're going to be done in such a way that the water, you drain the water out back to the river once the water is not needed. Because when you come to time for harvest, you need a very solid ground for the harvesters to go in. So working on the solar power irrigation, making sure these perimeters are fully irrigated, both rainy season and dry season, making sure the seeds are climate smart. They are high yield, of course, high yield varieties, but also they can tolerate flood, but also they are drought resistant to some degree. Means we are fully aware of the impact of climate change, but also its implication to agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Hearing you speak about agriculture the way you do, and hearing what people used to say about you just when you were appointed.
Right.
He's a nurse at best. I mean, what is he going to do in the Ministry of Agriculture?
Right.
You must be a fast learner.
You see, I mean, I think what people don't understand is your level of commitment determines your delivery. We've had, from independence to now, over 70% of the ministers of agriculture are not agricultural personnel. So yes, I was singled out because I'm a politician. If I was not a politician at all, it wouldn't be loud. But because I'm a politician, I say it raw to Usain Udabo and his team, so it will be convenient for me to be the, the drum. It's a cabinet of 20-something people. I mean, list of the ministries and try to match them. I mean, I have a degree in medicine. I mean, agriculture is about life. Half of agriculture is about Department of Livestock Services. Things relate. And our commitment to the president and to this country is unmatched. So for us, whether it's fast learning or not fast learning, we are determined to deliver. And if you are determined to deliver, you must find a path. You must find a way. And I have found that way. So I wasn't distracted with the noise that, okay, he is not from agriculture. And that's fine. But there have been ministers here who have not been from agriculture. And nobody talks about them. But because they are not politicians, nobody cares. And other ministers who are not politicians, nobody would care. But for me, I'm happy that they said that, because when they said that, for me, that was a template. That was a challenge for me. That, okay, well, out of all these other ones, it's not a problem. But for you, you are from a health background, and now they take you to Minister of Agriculture. This is going to be, big blunders. So for me, it was a challenge. All right, well, now I have to deliver to the Gambian people and prove the naysayers wrong. And that's exactly what I have done.
And how difficult was it at the beginning?
It was not difficult at all. For me, I have never found it to be difficult. I am not here to be a farmer. I am here to manage the people who support the farmers. I'm here to manage the Director Generals. These are experts. The Director General of Livestock is a veterinary doctor. The Director General of Department of Agriculture is an expert with over 30 years experience. The Director General of WALIC, he is an animal breeder. So my role wasn't to go down to the level of how many meters between two onions. That is not my role here. And that is what an agricultural personnel would go and learn in the college. My role is to ensure that those Director Generals have the resources they need, and they also deliver to the people. And I'm focused on that role.
This 100 minutes conversation.
It's first is to thank you very much, Peter. This is the first time we meet face to face. And I want to thank His Excellency the President and the entire government for creating the conducive environment for interviews like this and lot others to occur. And thank your followers, but also thank our colleagues at the NPP, that is the party, that is the ruling party. And again, thank the Gambia farmers for their productivity and steadfastness in our drive towards food self-sufficiency. But my advice to the entire population is, we may be divided politically. I'm NPP, you can be any other party. But we have one major thing in common, that is the Republic of the Gambia. And there is only one thing that can make us lose the Gambia, and that's violence. So we must be peaceful. Peaceful in speech and peaceful in action. People in authority must speak peace and act peacefully. And my advice to people in authority is, let us speak peace and let us act peacefully. We may be divided politically, which is normal and encouraged. But let us view Gambia as the only asset that we have in common and the asset that we must all jointly protect. And protecting the Gambia means making Gambia the most peaceful country, as has His Excellency been awarded as the most peaceful president. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right.